Hello everybody and welcome back to Season 5 of the FRS. We are here in Xbox Division 1 with Round 6 in Japan, kicking off the second half of this 10-race season. Now, Japan in the Suzuka circuit, it's the only figure of 8 layout on the Formula 1 calendar. As you can see, the bridge crossing over the second and third sector. We'll take a look at the track now. 18 corners, 5.8 kilometers, 3.6 miles, and 1 DRS zone. This tricky S section at the start of the lap is very much one line following. It's a very difficult track to make overtakes on as well, so you've got to qualify well. And it is the only circuit on the Season 5 calendar to feature just one DRS zone. It's got a 405-meter run from pole into turn 1. It's the second longest that we have of the season, but turn 1 is not much of a braking zone. You really got to pitch it in well. It's a very quick, in full racing conditions, flat-out right-hander for turn 1, and then you're on the brakes to slow yourself down into turn 2, so you've got to try and get that move done before you enter the turn-in phase. The next good overtaking position is turn 11. After you come out of the two Degners, the sharp hairpin has a bit of a braking zone that you can lunge your way down on the inside of. Of course, the famous corner 130R, if you can get a run up the hill, the bravest can try and make a run through this flat-out left-hander at very, very high speeds, over 180 miles an hour, which heads you down into the Casio Triangle, the final chicane of the lap and the last best overtaking opportunity as you brake hard and got to set yourself up for that run down the front straight. For the tires, we have, of course, a soft, medium, and hard. 0.6 of a second lap slower on the mediums, and 1.1 slower is the hard compound of tires. So we should likely just see these softs and mediums out this week. Now we'll jump on into our first session of qualifying here, starting our first flying lap, our only session of qualifying rather, 18-minute session. So across the start-finish line, opening the DRS, heading down into turn 1. Finding that turning point right about that access road, and then you're hard on the brakes just as you get basically about to the apex of turn 1. Ride it all the way out turn 2, carry as much speed as you can and through the S's, and it's very important to try and keep the car under control here. The curbing is rough as there is a spun car already. Slowing it down into fourth gear, then back on the power, ease on the throttle. On higher rear downforce cars like 2019, you were able to take that turn flat, but now it's gotten a lot harder. Now pitch it in almost full speed into the first Degner, a little wide on the apex of the second Degner corner, and now hard on the throttle, picking up to about 170 miles an hour before breaking down into that turn 11 hairpin. That inside curb can really upset the car, so you need to stay away from it. There are multiple lines you can take through that hairpin. Now the long, sweeping right-hander is picking up speed before you head down into spoon. About the 50-meter board, slow it down, pitch it in, run it out wide, then a little bit of extra braking. Try and get the car rotated. We didn't quite get it to the apex that time, and then flat on the throttle, running out to the exit and trying to pick up as much speed as you can up the hill. So 185 miles an hour as we come into 130R flat out corner, only scrubbing speed based on turning the wheel, and hard on the brakes into the Casio Triangle. The right-hander, left-hander, try and take as much curb as you can there, and then avoid this inside curb and get on the throttle as early as you can for this flat out run out to the line. We go first lap of a 129.618, and we are the first car to set a lap time, so that puts us provisionally at the moment early on the top spot. Now we're jumping ahead to our second run of the day. 9.5 minutes left to go in the session. We've fallen back to 4th position overall, but behind only the usual suspects of MJ Povey, QX Nemesis, and LC Fighter, the real qualifying and pace specialists in the division. So here we are into turn 1 and turn 2. A little slower across the line, but a better run out of turn 2. There you can see the delta just about even. Taking as much of the curbing as we dare there. You either need to fully commit to the curb or not to get on it at all. And you can see we've gained already about 0.2 of a second. We're starting to catch up to another car coming through the long left-hander. He's going to pull off the road to the left there. He let us through, and now into Degner 1. Hard on the brakes for Degner 2. A little better to the apex and about even on the throttle there. So we're still holding about that 0.2 of a second improvement. Now, Spen is out of the session. It looks like he's had an accident somewhere. And a much better exit on traction out of turn 11. We gained about a 0.5 there and carry that speed all the way around through this sweeping right-hander. Now, we didn't quite get to the apex the first time we came through spoon, so we'll see if we can set up a better run there. A little bit of a second stab trying to control the understeer, but able to get much earlier on the throttle, and you can see we're gaining time all the way up the hill. Now, 3.5 tenths of an improvement, so it's just a matter of having a good run through the final chicane, and that will put us up amongst some of the top runners. We were only 3/10 down on QX Nemesis through that last split, and we are about 3.5 up. Looks like Gully has gone a little bit faster than us. We opened DRS, crossed the line, and that puts us up into 4th position at 29.211. So we just leapfrog above Gully once more. So here we are in 5th now, with Issei having gone a little bit quicker than us as we start our final flying lap, using as much of the track as we can to gather our speed down into turn 1. We're usually going to hug very tight to the inside on that final corner, but here we are through turns 1 and 2. Didn't quite run out as wide as we normally should on turn 1 there, but we did improve through that. Nearly invalidate. A little twitch of oversteer as we get onto the curbing there. Now through the next couple of corners, we're still holding that delta right about even. Now we've gained roughly about a tenth, but we've run out a bit wide through turn 7, and that is going to cost us about a quarter of a tenth of a second there. So now better through the Degners there. We've gained about a tenth of a second through there. So we are just a little bit up. If we can have a good run through the hairpin, which we weren't perfect on the last run,
a little bit of wheel spin,
we might gain some time. But there was a little bit of wheel spin on the exit, so we're still right about flat, about 1.5 tenths of gain on this one here. Now through Spoon, much better through the first apex, tucking it into the second apex, a little slower on the throttle, and you can see how much time that's going to lose us all the way back down to flat. We were about 2 tenths faster through the first apex of Spoon, but about 2 tenths slower through the second. So we're about even in our second sector, hugging the left-hand side of the track, trying to shorten that run down to the Castillo Triangle, over the curbing there, taking as much liberties as we can. Big improvement through that final chicane. Open the DRS, cross the line, we go 28.909. It does not improve our overall time or our position though, as we end up 5th. So MJ Povey takes pole position ahead of QX Nemesis, LC Fighter, Issei 14.55, ourselves, then El Glavarino, Queasy, the new driver on the grid, qualifying 7th on the mediums. Then we have Gully, Spen, and a few others right behind us. So it'll be a Brenschel is the next one I can see as I'm apparently messing around with the lap timings.
And did better in Sector 3.
And then Cameron Slater and Death Star. So 12 cars on the grid. So here we are with the lights revving up on the grid. Starting on the soft compounded tires because we're in the top 10. But Queasy gets an incredible launch off the line on those mediums and splits right between myself and Issei. Gali is down the, El Glavarino is down the inside in the Ferrari. We're going to leave him space as we swing wide around the outside of turn 2, and we just slot back in. So we only lose the 1 position to Queasy, who had an incredible launch on those medium tires. And now it's time for us to tuck in behind Issei, who is a little bit quicker of a driver overall in qualifying pace. I think he's a hair quicker in race pace than myself as well. But we're starting inside the top 10. So we should be on for a good result for some points today if we can just hang on. It's not a track that's easy to overtake on. We haven't set our wings particularly high, so we aren't at any kind of a big straight line disadvantage, I would say. It's just a matter of not making any kinds of mistakes around this one and just trying to hold position. Stay with the group ahead. If we can stay with Issei, you can see we've already opened up a little bit of a gap to El Glavarino. We still, of course, have 3 laps before DRS becomes enabled. But if we can stay right inside the DRS zone of Issei, we can basically hang with the front group while dropping that extra few drivers behind, which will be critical for our overall race. Now, it's a one-stop strategy around here at Japan, a soft onto medium, or in the case of Queasy, who qualified very well on those mediums, we'll be able to go medium onto soft and go a fair ways into the race. Should be able to take it to about lap 10 or so on these soft compound tires. And we're going to have a little jump ahead to lap 4 of 27. We have cleared the DRS range to El Glavarino. He's about 2 seconds back while staying inside with Issei, who is ahead. But Issei gets onto the curb. The back end just goes light on the car, and he is around, and that's going to promote us up into P5. Now we're about 1.3 seconds off of Queasy, and we're getting close to the switchover point where the mediums start to become faster than the softs. Probably about lap 7 or so is where that actually happens.
Or even without the curb.
But we need to try and close those 3/10 up to Queasy while we have the better tires, because if we can close those 3/10 up before the end of the lap, we'll be able to have that DRS down the main straight. as we are now 1.1 seconds, but back to 1.3. We're going to burn a lot of our overtake. We're going to be on that ERS button pretty frequently in this one. Not worrying about how much deployment we're spending. You can regen about 10 to 12% of your overtake per lap if you're running without it on. So it's not nearly as stingy as it was in Canada last time out, where you're only gaining about 3 or 4%. So you can really recharge that battery rather quickly. You can see hard on the overtake button as it's draining. We're under that 10% mark, but most importantly, in the top left there, you see where we're in that 1 second mark, 9/10 back of Queasy. So we were able to use all that overtake mode and close into the DRS zone, give ourselves a little bit of extra top speed as LC is first into the pits, appeared with with some wing damage. So he is unfortunately going to have his race compromised, and that's going to promote us up into 4th position now. So even with the DRS, we were unable to close that gap to Queasy.
We're hitting a swap over. The mediums are going to be faster than the softs.
So we're now 1.1 seconds back. We don't really have as much overtake to spend on this lap, but you can see the gap now to Gali and El Gloverino. 3.6, 3.9 seconds as Gali has gotten past the Ferrari of El Gloverino. We are still going to try and push on this lap, see if we can hang in with Queasy. It's only another 10th or so, but it depends on the exit from turn 11 here, as the softs are definitely starting to degrade a little bit at this stage. 1.2 tenths, or 2 tenths to get inside the DRS zone, but we are not utilizing the overtake mode at this moment, as it seems I'm just going to be kind of content to fall out of the DRS as we run a little bit wide through Spoon. And track limits can be a bit of an issue. Luckily, we didn't pick up a warning there, so I think the game just decided that we didn't gain any advantage. But the front left is starting to get pretty worn, and the front tires are getting fairly warm as well. But you can see where we lost 6 tenths off of our best lap through Sector 2 there. Now we're going to jump ahead up to lap 11 of 27 now, as we are on the medium tires. Now we've made our pit stop, and we are catching up to two cars that are out on their starting tire. Death Star in the Red Bull is into the pits off of those soft tires now. And we are closing up to just about 1 second of Cameron Slater, who is on the mediums, the same tire compound as we are, but is on his starting tires. So he will be quite a bit slower than us through the S section. But like I was saying at the start of the show, the S is not really an overtaking opportunity, not a lot of overtaking opportunities in general around this track, as you can see how much time we're gaining as he's struggling with the grip, getting wrong-footed through the S section. We've gained already a half a second through the first sector, and now you see that time to Gali behind us really start contracting. He was up around 3 seconds when they came out of the pits behind us. They attempted to undercut us, but we burned a lot of ERS energy on our in-lap to make sure that Gali did not jump past me in that pit stop phase. The undercut is fairly strong, but we kept a very similar 3-second gap between us. But you can see now it's down to 2.5 seconds. Still not able to make our way past Cameron Slater, who's gone wide through the first part of Spoon there. We don't quite get the apex hooked up. And now up the hill we go. We're about half a second back, not close enough to really try and make a move on just slipstream power. And he looks to be carrying a little less downforce than us as well. So that's going to give him a straight line speed advantage, which is always frustrating to be behind here in Japan, because even though we're going to be pretty close to the back of him on overtake with the DRS open, the speed differential is just not quite high enough if they've got low enough wings as we are closing the inside. But as we get to the turning point, we're just going to back out. We did not have a good enough of the car alongside to really try and lunge one in. But now we're going to essentially be stuck behind him for a whole extra lap. And Gali is running in clean air on relatively fresh tires as well. And that is going to cost us big. You can see we've lost already 3 tenths to Gali through the first sector. And we are just tucked up behind Cameron, trying to find a place to get through. He's wide on the apex of Degner 1 through Degner 2, but just gets the power down well. And this is also where the assist differential can come into play a little bit as well. With traction control, it's much easier to get out of these slow corners and not worry about spinning. So you notice at least on most tracks, you get a little bit of an advantage running no traction control. But Suzuka is such a bumpy track, and the traction zones are so uneven that it is in fact an advantage to have that traction control on. But here we go. Having a little bit of a press of overtake, but you can see just even in the slipstream of him, he's just about holding that gap pretty much the same. So he's got an extra straight line speed from having those lower wings, and that also hurts him more in the S section. So we're losing even more time than if we were running similar wings. And you can see now, Gali 1.6 seconds back, has gained nearly a full second, has actually gained a full second over this last lap. You see we're 1.1 seconds off of our best lap, which was the one lap we set in clean air with the medium tires. So there's plenty of extra pace that I could have to get away from him, but there's just nowhere really to overtake. As you can see, just having to kind of roll the car through these corners, not able to attack with the extra pace because there's another car directly in front. But we're now coming up on, 3 laps behind Cameron, and Gali is just about inside our DRS range now. It's at 1.2 seconds, and will certainly be around 1 second back by the time we hit the detection point, unless I can make a move on Cameron this lap before the DRS detection point. So we've gotten a decent run out of the hairpin there. Only 0.3 back of Cameron. We're saving our overtake energy. We're going to try, since the DRS zone is too short to try and make that move, we're going to try and go for the move down this back straight and into 130R. We have to kind of check up as he rejoins the track in front of us, but now on the button, we get a better exit through Spoon. So we're on the overtake in the slipstream, pull to the inside. We're going to get fully alongside him, nearly fully clear him. A little bit of a crowd out there that was probably could have been reported since I did put him a little bit onto the grass. I wasn't trying to crowd him out like that, but all in all, it was wheel to wheel, and we do get cleared through that corner. Now, Gali is all over the back of Cameron Slater, who had a compromised run through the chicane, and we are just trying to use what all is left in our battery. You can see we're down to 1% before we get in there, and MJ Povey's had a bit of an off ahead of us. He's made a mistake somewhere, so he's down in 4th now, directly in front of us, although I would expect him to recover and start pulling away. But I'm going to see if we can't, unfortunately, we used all of our overtake trying to get away from Cameron Slater, which we did. We are outside that 1 second margin now, and he was able to keep Gali behind. But we aren't going to quite have the speed that we need in order to stay with Povey. But there was yellow flags ahead, and that was LC Fighter in the Aston Martin. So out of 3rd place there, has had an issue of some kind. Looks to be going a fair bit slower through that hairpin, even after getting the car straightened back up. So I think he's got wing damage up ahead. We'll see how quickly he's through Spoon. He's very slow, very wide through Spoon there, so definitely wrestling with a damaged wing. Povey goes wide around the outside. I know at this point, with that wing damage, he is going to have to lift coming through 130R. There's no way he's going to be able to take it flat. So we're just prepared to lift out if needed. And you can see, we have to come off the throttle a little bit. We're going to switch it to the inside as he goes to the racing line, and we're going to try and take the position from him, wing damage and all, into the hairpin, and then he is going to dive into the pit lane so to deal with that damage. But we were able to size him up. Originally I was thinking he was going to stay to the inside and we were going to take the racing line, but he came across right as we were arriving, and I chucked it back across the track and able to get to the inside line safely. And now Cameron Slater's got 6 seconds of time penalties behind us. We're running in 4th place, and he's still got Spen and Gali behind. So now we're going to jump ahead now, lap 26 of 27. Gali 3 seconds behind, has finally cleared Cameron Slater after they made their pit stop. Spen Wolf 4.6 seconds back. Gali had been steadily catching us. We just need to bring the car home at this stage. Queasy up 11 seconds up the road, making excellent use of that alternate strategy as he's now on those soft tires going quick. And we just have to bring the car the rest of the way home for a solid 4th place finish. So gained 1 position, would have gained 1 position from the start. And we are going a fair bit slower through as we lost 0.3 off of our best lap in Sector 1.
I saw him
Now heading
Still about
into
2
the
seconds
hairpin,
or so
I have a
ahead.
brake failure. My
My wheel just
pedals
crashed.
disconnected.
My wheel just shut off.
My pedals disconnected as I entered the braking zone, so straight into the wall. You can see I have no throttle.
No,
I can steer
come
the
on.
wheels, so we're going to try and go into the settings. The AI is going to take over at the moment, but I have no pedal control. Checking to see if the rim is on. It is connected. It's just not reading the pedals. So I come out maybe with the connection, but no, I'm pressing the throttle, getting nothing on the telemetry.
No!
I got to try and
my pedals
reboot the steering wheel before the end of this race happens, as it is just a cluster of horrible luck. It was an easy just taking it home as the car's driving with no wing. You can see I'm trying to switch the wheel on the screen there. I'm having to essentially just turn the wheel completely off and reboot it, and as soon as it comes back on, we'll try and take control again. But we have no front wing. The AI luckily stays out to start the final lap with no front wing. You can see the wheel turning itself in the bottom left there as it is calibrating in its power-up phase, and we're just trying to get it switched back to Xbox mode.
I'm assuming,
and see how far around the track we are with a broken front wing on the final lap of the race to try and bring it home. We'll see what's going on, and that's just the kind of luck we didn't need. So it looks like we're about to have the wheel on. The wheel is back on. There's a car just in front of us. Cameron Slater has gone through in 8th. We are running P9 at the moment. And there's 5 seconds till the AI Death Star is coming up behind us. So he's got a clean front wing as we have to be very, very slow through many of these corners. Death Star, we're going to just go wide on the apex there. But he's ghosted, so it's an AI in control of his car and has been apparently... we found out after the fact for most of the race. So he will get removed from the standings because he did not complete most of the race under his own power. So we are still running, though, in the points. P10, 30 seconds plus 3 to Brenschel behind because he's got that 3-second time penalty. We're just having to ease the car through the corner so much slower than if we had a front wing. And it's just watching that timer come down as he's trying to close up. But we are still somehow inside the points after that mistake.
I'm going to wrestle this fucker home for a point.
But we're fighting to bring this one home just for one solitary point. Potential, and well, it would end up being 2, as we found out after the fact with Death Star's disconnection, removing him from the results. But so slow through the final chicane. Coming out of the final corner, getting on the throttle fully, crossing the line as you can hear me.
Solitary point.
One solitary point.
Oh, that's so unlucky.
It was just bad luck. It was bad luck that time.
Unlucky.
I was in position for a great finish. Had probably my best qualifying session of the season, qualifying in 5th, around a track where qualifying was very important. And Brenschel crosses the line in 11th, and LC Fighter with his damage will be running in P12.
Oh, that's so brutal. I was on for such a result.
But here comes LC through, and now we are officially across the line. Everybody has completed the race. We will check and see the final results of this one, but such bad luck that time around. Was running in such a good spot, and just the pedals just essentially disconnected all of a sudden. It was strange, but Nemesis takes the win ahead of MJ Povey. Queasy picking up his first podium of the FRS season as a later joiner. Really qualifying incredibly well on those medium tires and having a very good result there.
Bad luck. Just bad luck.
But we'll take a look at the full rundown in just a moment to see where everybody shook out. I'm sure that Gully would then come 4th because he was behind me when I had my mistakes. Ben should be 5th as well. And here it is. Nemesis with the race win. MJ Povey P2. Queasy in 3rd, rounding out the podium. Gali comes home in 4th. Spen in 5th. El Glavarino in 6th. Issei comes home 7th. Cameron in 8th. Death Star across the line in 9th. and
I was
ourselves in
there.
10th. Brentshall 11th, and LC Fighter having to
I
take those
was
extra
right
stops,
there.
coming home in 12th, though grabbing the fastest lap off of MJ Povey, I believe, who held it earlier in the race. So that way, he's at least helping his teammate out, keeping the points away. But the next race we have is coming up next week is going to be around the circuit of Bahrain, which has been an up and down track and has had its fair share of curses here in the Xbox division of FRS. But I will catch you guys next time. Peace.